Welcome to Fox 55's Fastlane.
We are so glad you could join us on this edition of Fox 55's Fastlane, the area's only local racing show. I'm Bryon Graff alongside Jana Wimmer. As always, Curt Keene will be up shortly with his Keene Observations. And of course, later in the show, Scott Wimmer will share his knowledge with the cars with tech tips.
It was a busy weekend of racing with lots of racing action. Marshfield Speedway was back on track after a rain out the previous week. Let's get right to the super late model highlights from that one on Friday night. Bryon, take it away.
The 35-lap feature on Hometown Night saw Derek Van Driel setting the pace early on, leading the first 7 laps at the 1/2 mile oval in Marshfield. Then it was Ryan Hinner edging to take control and opening up a lead of his own. It stayed that way until lap 33 when Mark Eswine pushes to the inside of Hinner coming out of turn 2, eventually taking the lead as they pushed ahead for the white flag lap. There's no way he was going to let anyone catch up. Mark Eswine crosses the finish line first, followed by Hinner. Brent Strelka is your third-place finisher, with Jeff Weinfurter and Travis Volm rounding out the top 5.
Well, I guess it was kind of like an early Christmas present, so I couldn't believe he left the bottom open, but maybe my full head of steam from what went on earlier in the race probably what made me keep chugging along tonight and get me this win.
Other feature winners were Brandon Herr in the Extreme 4s, Jerry Brickner in the Bandits, Carl Jeanette in the Pure Stocks, and Brian Weinfurter in the CWSSA Super Stocks. The other big event over the weekend was the Dick Trickle Memorial Race Sunday at Golden Sands Speedway. It is time for us to hit the pedal, get a recap of how that race played out with Jana.
A race in honor of the late Dick Trickle. Cody Smiley grabbed the lead off the start, and then Brazen Bennett, he catches Smiley, makes a move to the inside in 3 and 4, and he takes the lead. Then it was Corey Jankowski coming on strong. He used the outside line to get around Bennett and take the top spot. The caution flew as Mark Eswine, Frank Nietzsche, and Chris Trickle all got together in turn 3. That's Trickle, Dick Trickle's nephew, going off on the hook. And get this, all 3 of those guys were on the same team. Back to green, Jankowski holds on to the lead, but here comes Frank Cryer. He's up to second and would catch Jankowski to take the lead. Mike Litchfield worked under Jankowski as the laps wound down. He's up to second, and Reagan May followed right through to move into third. Cryer took the white flag, and the caution came out, so he comes and takes the checkers under the yellow to win the Dick Trickle Memorial Race.
I'll tell you, it was a lot of fun. The car was great. This whole Trickle Memorial thing, this whole draft deal, totally different than the norm. A lot of fun. I just going through the pits and talking to everybody, how fun this was.
So Frank Cryer wins the feature, but if you dig a little bit deeper, you'll find a lot more to this event.
That's right. We've talked a few times about the team aspect of this race, where drivers were actually drafted onto 5 different teams. There would be a winning team, not necessarily just a winning driver. So here's a look at the team that won. It was Team Marzufka, of course, Frank Cryer, the overall winner of the race, helping his team along. Chad Devine, Mark Mackesy, Jeremy Lepak, and Renee Shenaha, all on Team Marzufka, who were the overall winners as a whole of the Dick Trickle Memorial Race at Golden Sands Speedway.
When Dick Trickle would come in a little bit late.
No, he never did that.
No, he never did that. And the car would be running on the hauler, warming up. So then he'd just jump in and do his time trials. So there was really no practice for him. He didn't need it. He just knew what his car was set up, and he knew what he could do.
Dick would have had a good time today. He would have liked it and had fun.
Looked like a really good team on paper, so we felt that we had a good chance, and it worked out in the end.
Curt Keene, of course, our man on the scene, our reporter at Golden Sands. He's going to be in just a few moments to join us for Keene Observations. Now, at this point in the year, racing is really hitting on all cylinders. This Thursday, the Flip Merwin Memorial Race will be run at State Park Speedway.
The race is in honor of the late Flip Merwin, who was killed in 2003 while competing at the World Championship Snowmobile Derby in Eagle River. Jeremy Lepak has been on a tear at State Park Speedway, winning back-to-back races and leading the points, but he's never won a memorial race there. The Flip race is one he would like to add to his resume.
They are, especially Flips. You know, I always say a lot of the guys that knew Larry get to relate to Larry, and it's like that for us with Flip. We all knew Flip, hung around him a lot. He lettered my race cars, and you know, so it makes it extra special to be able to win that race.
Golden Sands Speedway comes right back with another night of racing this Friday as the track celebrates 2 decades in the business. Qualifying at 6:30, racing follows at 7:45.
Curt Keene was at Golden Sands big race on Sunday. Now it's time to check in with him with this week's Keene Observations.
Curt, you were at the Dick Trickle Memorial. Your general thoughts on that event?
Well, I'll tell you what, it was a great event. Just getting all the racers together, the way they did the draft, and the way that, everyone just put stuff into, Tom Refner and Marv Marzovka, John Alf, Gary Erickson, kind of big guys that are doing this Trickle Memorial, and to see the racing and the way it turned out. Chuck Trickle, his brother, was there. I could have swore Chuck Trickle is like having Dick there, but got to meet a lot of cool people, and it was a great event on Sunday.
I know you talked to a bunch of the drivers after the race, and I mean, they seemed to know exactly where their team was at after qualifying and after heat races. I mean, was that kind of the vibe that these guys were paying attention to their team and their teammates and where they were at all day long?
I think it did because, some teams had tape on their cars, so then they knew their teammate was coming, but I'm sure their spotters were telling. So, they knew if a guy was fast that, hey, maybe we should let him go because, I'm not very good right now. And, it was just a great turnout, and I was excited to see, the team, how they raced. I mean, one team, actually 3 guys got together and got wiped out. So maybe they didn't have tape on, but the other teams, I think, did pretty good in their heat races and then feature finish.
And the winning team, Jeremy Lepak, had an early incident. Did you think, did those guys think that when he went out that maybe their team was in a little bit of jeopardy even though they had the lead going into the feature?
Yeah, they had a great heat race, so they were doing real well, Marzovka. But Jeremy went up in the flames, and a good thing the car, he got it put out the flame, but it could have been a very serious deal. But one thing that I thought was cool about it, the winner, Frank Cryer, donated the $1,000 to the Dick Trickle Memorial Fund, and what better way can someone do that for the sport of racing? So that was pretty awesome.
What kind of reaction did you sense from the fans?
I think it was a new format that they were maybe not familiar with it until it was explained, and I think the fans just it was just a lot of Dick Trickle stories, and saw a lot of 99s and purple hats, and you see most of these same people at racetracks that we go to, and to see the same people and come out of all over the state and around the country to come for that just was a great event.
We're going to switch gears and talk a little bit about Marshfield, and we're going to talk a little bit about the support divisions, which have been pretty strong out there. Who do you kind of see as some of the top drivers? They have the Extreme 4s out there, the Bandits, the Pure Stocks, the Super Stocks. What's really been standing out to you?
Well, I think in the support division, you have Jerry Brickner, who's doing really good at State Park Speedway. Last week he got in an incident, had to start in the back of the pack and came back to win. Another name that I think of is Bryon Weinferter. Always fast time, always wins feature events. And another guy in the other support class you got to kind of go with. Adam Eckes is pretty good there, Tim Anderson in that class, and Steve and Derek Hauser. Those are about the top 5 that always see up front running, and usually the guys that you'll see winning on Saturday night or Friday nights now.
And their next big night will be men's night on June 19th. Let's talk about State Park Speedway coming up this week. The Flip Merwin race will be going on. A lot of guys knew him. They knew him not only from racing, they knew him from snowmobile racing as well. What do you recall of him? You're kind of a younger guy going back to 2003 when unfortunately his life was cut short at a young age for him. But you've talked to so many people who knew him, and he had an impact on a lot of people in this area.
Well, when you think about Flip was a guy that he showed up to everything. He not only ran a business, he raced snowmobiles, and he helped crew on cars. He was Scott Wimmer's best friend, and Scott and him went to a lot of races. But when Flip, you go to other races, and he would help out. If a guy needed someone in the pits, he'd be there. If a guy needed some hats for their team, he would do that. But he was a neat guy, and I think that's why we get such a great turnout for that event. And it shows even with their snowmobile track that they have down the road from State Park Speedway. Just everyone loved him, and he's surely missed around the racetrack and even in the community because he was a great guy. He was on bowling. We could talk all day about Flip Merwin. He was just that neat of a guy.
And it's kind of like the trickle race on Sunday. You'll walk around State Park Speedway on Thursday and hear a lot of, people telling stories about Flip and things like that. So it's just kind of a neat night out there. What else is coming up, this week? Obviously, we talked a little bit about the Flip Merwin. What else is going on?
Well, again, Golden Sands Friday night. Well, we'll already cover that, but we got other good races coming up. Throughout the week. I know there was a race that got canceled this week at Kaukauna, which we weren't able to make that one. But just check out the schedules and I can't think of anything off the top of my head that besides the Flip Merwin and the race at Marshfield next Friday.
And pretty much what we know is if it's not raining, you will be at the track.
I try to make
you cover
it
a lot of them.
I try to go to a lot of racing. It's something that I get to do, and most of these people are not just because I like to watch them race. Most of them are friends. I think I spend more time with the people in the racing world than with my family. But it's just always a good time, and the stories afterwards you can't even write it. So look to be at a racetrack, and we'll see you at the Speedway for the Flip Merwin Memorial. And you're a true TV guy now, so you get anyone giving you a hard time? Oh, I'm getting some compliments, and hey, you did better. Compliments? Good compliments, good. But you guys are the professionals, so thanks for having me on. We know you've been getting a lot of feedback, so if anyone officially wants to give us feedback on not only you, go on the Facebook page. Yeah, go to the Facebook page. That's what we want to do, and really, once again, to emphasize. With Curt coming onto this show, it's talking about the support series drivers because we do have a lot of highlights early on the show with those late model features as well. So find us on Facebook and you can send us those comments there.
We packed a lot of local racing into this first segment. After the break, we'll take you to the emotional win in Pocono by a Sprint Cup Series driver.
Welcome back to Fox 55's Fastlane. I'm Bryon Graff alongside Jana Wimmer. The Sprint Cup Series made a trip up the East Coast to the Triangle that is Pocono Raceway, and a veteran driver scored his first win in nearly 2 years after coming close a few times this season. Here's a look at the start of the race. Early on, AJ Allmendinger gets into the back of Ryan Newman. Newman goes for a spin up the track, and Newman not happy after the incident and implied that Allmendinger has one coming. This is a look at the final restart of the race, and it's a good one for Truex. He gets out front and he never looks back, picking up the win.
I've just honestly been so proud of their outlook on the way this year has gone. It would be easy the last 3 weeks to get down and to hang your head and to make excuses and honestly just be disappointed, but they weren't. They were excited. They knew we were going to get this win, and they knew we were going to get it soon, and they worked hard. They didn't lose focus of how they were, how we got to where we're at, and honestly that's what pushed us over the edge and was able to make the difference today.
That was definitely an emotional win for Truex. He and his girlfriend have been through a lot in the past year. She was diagnosed with ovarian cancer last summer and is currently undergoing chemotherapy. There were so many great images, and I saw a lot out on Twitter for them after the win, which meant so much to both of them. Truex has been going strong all year and was finally able to secure a win and also a berth in the chase. Let's take a look at the top 10 as they cross the finish line. Truex, your winner, followed by Kevin Harvick, Jimmy Johnson, Joey Logano, and Kurt Busch. Wisconsin's own Matt Kenseth coming in 6th place, followed by Jamie McMurray, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, and Denny Hamlin. This afternoon, drivers are in the Midwest at Michigan International Speedway. You can catch the Quicken Loans 400 this afternoon starting at noon on Fox Sports 1. Time for another Fox 55 Fastlane break. When we return, we will be joined by our driver guest. Welcome back to Fox 55's Fastlane. This week, we welcome double-duty driver Travis Volm as our guest. Travis, thanks so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. As
I said, double-duty driver, you're racing super late models and pure stocks this year. How do you handle that balance?
It's tough. Takes a lot of crew guys helping us back and forth, but even myself, jumping out one car and the next and adjusting. Obviously it's completely different driving, but we make it work. And some nights I struggle, but we do it. So. You had a lot of success in the pure stocks. Talk us through kind of some of the success you had. Multiple track championships. You raced all around the area with the pure stocks. Yeah, I think I got 4. I think I won 3 in a row at State Park, 1 at Marshfield. Came up 1 point short at Golden Sands one year. We got a lot of feature wins and stuff, but just a lot of hard work, and that's really what it comes down to. And then last year, I believe, was the first season when you kind of got into that super late model racing. What went into that decision to get up into super late models? And you talked a little bit of the transition, but what was it like going from pure stocks to working on that kind of car to working on a super late model and now racing both? It was a whole different animal. It was a big learning experience, and I'm still learning. We every week we go, but it's quite a bit different, and Wayne's really helps me and works with me a lot, the car owner of the 7-Eleven, but it's hard work.
Could you explain the difference for people who maybe don't understand what it takes to ride in a certain car and then to change and go into another one? How much is it as far as preparation, how it handles on the track, the speeds, all that sort of stuff?
It's all, timing and, you finding your marks, knowing, where you are. I mean, obviously speeds, I don't know, it's quite a bit difference, but getting to that corner and, with pure stock, you can just drive them hard as you want and you just kind of float around out there. But you get in a late model, like I said, you got to hit marks, hit your line, run lines, and be consistent with them.
And then you throw in the fact that not only do you have 2 cars, but you're going to multiple tracks.
Yeah.
So kind of throw that in there and explain what that means to go to another track and what the setup is involved.
Well, we were only running 2 cars at Wassa, but we run the late model a lot of other places. But we do change it quite a bit, with the super late setup wise and stuff, and it's gears and just all kinds of different stuff. So.
I know a lot of racing, and we talked to a lot of our guests about this, is a lot about family. I know that, I see you working at your car sometimes out of your parents' house. Talk about your family and how that they've been a part of this racing for you.
My parents are where I work on my car, but they've done a lot for me throughout my career, but started 6 years ago, and my dad didn't want me to start racing, and I told him, like, too late, we're buying a car, and he's my #1 supporter now, behind my back, so they're great, mom, dad, my girlfriend Sam, sister, everybody. So.
Why didn't he want you to race?
I think just he did it for years and years and years, and he knew what it took to do it, and, money, situate costs and stuff like that. I think that was why, but now he's like, probably pushes me more than I want to go sometimes, but. So.
And along with double duty and 2 cars and working on 2 cars and racing at 2 different tracks, you also have a new baby girl in your family.
Yep, Kylie Ray. Yep, she's 2 months now. We actually just had shots for her today. It was wasn't fun, but so. And then I have my 7-year-old. She'll be 8 also too. So.
What was your first big win on the track?
First big win would have been, I don't know. I would have to say probably. My rookie year, the last race of the season, I won the feature.
And what do you remember about that night?
I started, actually 2 cars wrecked me in front of me. Oh. That's how I ended up winning. But
anyway, right?
Yeah, a win's a win, I say. But it was fun. That was a good night.
As you've kind of transitioned, from pure stocks and, obviously doing a lot more super late model racing, how do you approach that? Are you setting goals for yourself year after year? Last year was kind of your first year climbing behind the wheel in a super late model. Obviously, you've gotten a lot more experience, seen more success this year. Are you setting goals for yourself, or what's kind of your outlook as you kind of make this transition in terms of the different divisions?
Yeah, every week we set a goal every night, every race. This is where we want to be. This is what we want to do, and we just try to do better every week, just try to just keep progressing,
And you mentioned Wayne Breivik, who owns the 7-Eleven super late model that you drive, and he's, had a lot of different drivers in and out of his car. He's working with you now. What's that relationship been like over the last couple of years?
Me and Wayne, I've been friends with Wayne for a long time, and I bother him a lot to get in there. But no, we have a really good relationship. We see eye to eye pretty well on a lot of things, and we work together well.
And you race snowmobiles as well. Tell us about that.
Yep, I run vintage. I run all over the place with that, Eagle River, and just everywhere actually. But we made finals last year up in Eagle River. Didn't do well in the finals. We finished like 9th or something. But so, where else we run? I don't know. We run down by La Crosse. We were down there, Rylander, all over.
So special for you coming up with the flip night on Thursday?
Yep. I won 1, I think, or maybe 2. I got 2 wins in that, but it'd be pretty cool to win one in the super late. So.
We're going to do our special 6 questions for you. We call it our checkered finish. We started this last week, so you're the second ever driver to get this.
And Chris Weinkoff, he did a pretty good job, so he set the bar pretty high. Well, so let's see how you can do.
All right, the first one is, what was your first get around town car?
83 Buick Regal.
What would be your dream car?
70 Cuda.
What was your first job?
Stocking shelves at a grocery store.
Who is your favorite NASCAR driver?
Dale Earnhardt.
If you could race at any track at any level, where would it be?
I'd like to go to Bristol.
And what kind of car?
Super late.
Oh boy. What's your favorite thing to do away from the track?
Spend time with my daughters and family.
You handled our checkered finish. Congratulations on that. Now, of course, you have a lot of sponsors. Who would you like to thank?
I got to thank Senflex, New Life Inc., American Van Lines, Oak Ridge Campground, Tina's Mirage, Sprinkler Pete, and Hilltop Auto.
And of course, we have some sponsors of our own who help us make this show go every week, and we have some special gifts for you. So we have a nice Fastlane polo shirt for you.
And we have a gift card from Country Fresh Meats for $25.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks again for joining us, Travis Volm. And we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will have your tech tips. We're so glad you could join us here on Fox 55's Fastlane, and it is now time for us to take a closer look at the cars with former NASCAR Sprint Cup driver Scott Wimmer. As always, Jana talked with him, and what do you have for us this week?
This week we got a little more into some of the mechanics. We actually got into the motors in the car and the carburetors and some of those specifics. So it was really neat. Scott had a lot of good information. Check it out in this week's Tech Tips.
Fox 55's Fastlane Tech Tips are brought to you by Car Parts.
Welcome to this week's edition of Tech Tips. I'm joined by former NASCAR Sprint Cup driver Scott Wimmer, and this week we're going to take a closer look under the hood. And what really gives these cars their power is, of course, the motor. So Scott, can you talk to us a little bit about the motors that go in these cars, and they produce a lot of horsepower?
Oh yeah, they definitely do. If you ask any engine builder, the motor's the first thing that crosses the start-finish line. So it's probably the most important thing. Motors are anywhere about 500 horsepower, some are a little more, very lightweight, very specific built. They're built to turn very high RPM. We turn them around 8,000 RPM, long duration races. Our races will be anywhere up to 200 laps, some 300 laps. So they have to really have a lot of reliability built into them. There's about 4 different models you can run in this state right now. This LS motor that Wagner puts out is probably one of the more popular ones.
You talked about different motors you could run. I mean, there are things like 9-to-1s, there are sealed motors, there are spec motors, there are crate motors. Just a broad overview of what's the biggest difference. And, you know, what is it? Every driver has their own style that they like, or is there something that's better for bigger tracks or smaller tracks, or what goes into that decision of what motor you buy?
It's really driver preference. A lot of people like the 9-to-1 motor. The 9-to-1 motor has been around since the 80s. They've kind of phased that out and are starting to get into some different stuff. The main reason is cost. We're trying to get these motors to where they're about 20 to 22,000. A good 9-to-1 motor right now is about 38,000. So a lot of people are going to this route, just trying to keep the cost down with racing. You know, a lot of the older racers, they still like the ones they grew up racing on. I'm one that does too. But really the spec motors and the motors that are coming out right now, lower cost and really about the same horsepower as the 9-to-1s and the older motors.
And when we talk about motors, we have to talk a little bit about carburetors. There are 2 different options. What's on the car right now is a 4-barrel carburetor, and what I have right here, this is a 2-barrel carburetor. So can you explain to us the difference? And I know most of the tracks around here run this. They run a 2-barrel carburetor. There's a few series across the country that run the 4-barrel. But what is the difference between the 2?
Really, the main difference is this has 2 barrels, where a 4-barrel has 4 barrels. 2 barrels are very popular around here, mainly because of the cost savings. Again, 4-barrel carburetors are a little more expensive. They use more fuel. They're harder to tune on, get the motor to run properly. These 2 barrels have been around for since the 70s. A lot of street vehicles were built with these, and whatever we do, it's trying to limit the costs on this. So a 2-barrel is more cost effective, and the motors seem to run really good with them.
That's a closer look under the hood this week in Tech Tips.
Very informational. One of these weeks you're going to put the hood on and actually drive the car out of the garage, right?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I'm still learning how to drive a stick shift, so I'm going to need some more lessons before they'll let me do that, I think.
We are hoping for some great weather this week. There's been enough rain, I think, and wiping out some of the races. But hoping for that. That's all the time we have for this edition of Fox 55's Fastlane. Our thanks go out to Scott Wimmer, Curt Keene, and Travis Volm.
And, of course, our sponsors, Berkner's of Wausau, Flipside Graphics, Country Fresh Meats, and Car Parts.
From all of us here at Fox 55, have a great week, and we will see you at the track.